Welcome to From the Desk of the Executive Director, and I'm James Pennington, Executive Director of Back Bay Mission. I'm here in our long-term mission cottage house, which is across the street from Back Bay Mission, with two of our fantastic, amazing, lovely long-term volunteers by the name of Ken and Linda. And so we're here just to kind of talk a little bit about their experience, your journey, and kind of what brought you here. And then what resonates with you about being a long-term volunteer. Because we always need long-term volunteers. Right now we have 4 or 5 here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 5 long-term volunteers. Usually we just have 1 or 2.
Right.
So we have 3 bedrooms in this lovely home. 2 bathrooms only, I'm being told. We have to build another bathroom. But it's a great house to kind of be in, a great opportunity just to share yourself with our volunteer groups. So Ken, how long have you been a long-term volunteer? This is your second trip as a long-term volunteer.
This is my second trip, and I spent mid-October last year till mid-November, and this year I came down October 1st, and I'm here till October 29th.
And for how many years had you been coming down with volunteer groups from the great state of Wisconsin, the Cheesehead State? Go Packers!
Yes.
Go Cheese Curds! Go Cheese!
I started coming down in March of 2013.
Okay.
Did that for a couple years, and then we had our long-term. I was the leader after the leader, Benji, who came down here as a long-term or as a full-time employee. Came down here, and I took his spot as the leader for Back Bay Mission in our church.
That's right, and Benji now lives here.
He does live in Gulfport.
In Gulfport, yeah. And I hear he's loving it down here.
That's what he says.
Yeah. He's out of the cold snow in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I lived for Wisconsin in many years. I have incredible memories, good memories of working and living in Stevens Point for a year. I lived in Milwaukee for quite a number of years. Then I lived in Madison, worked for the State Health Department. Kind of worked between Madison and Milwaukee, and really loved Stevens Point, little community, college town. Of course, Madison's a college town, and Milwaukee's on the Lake Michigan, so great places to be. So tell us a little bit about Linda, how long have you been coming down here? Linda's from Pennsylvania.
Yes, I've been coming down for over 10-15 years, but for the last year as a long-term volunteer. My end of it is volunteer coordinator, where I work with the work crews that come down every week to make sure that they have all of the paperwork filled in and that they have everything they need in the mission house. Where Ken's end of it is the construction supervisor, right. So he can tell you his end.
And what's your construction experience?
None.
But you've been coming down since 2013.
I've been coming. I've done construction on my own house forever, since I bought a house. I couldn't afford to pay for somebody to come in. I like the construction side of things because when I do it, it's not what I did in my normal job. I was a computer programmer by trade.
Yeah.
Get on the keyboard and do whatever you want me to do on the keyboard, but this is totally different, and I enjoy working with my hands. I enjoy, in the case of volunteering long term, I enjoy watching the other volunteers that come down, and like this week there were 2 women that were putting the flooring together, and you hear the snap when the floors snap together, and they have this big smile on their face, and they just, it's like, this is really cool, and then snap it in, give it a little tap with the mallet, and off they were going on the next piece. So it was fun. And
the woman that you're doing the rehab for, the flooring work, right, is a woman who lost her husband a year ago, and she's trying to run her own business and trying to live. Kind of what I see you doing is really is helping keep people in their homes, or homeless prevention, because her son fell through the floor, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and so the floor was routed out, and you had an opportunity to go in and really make that home better for somebody who couldn't afford to do it for themselves. Kind of like you said, you do your own work because you couldn't afford to have somebody come in and do it, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So these volunteers from Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, all over the place. Illinois, as some call it, come down to do this work here at Back Bay. And in any normal year, I guess we'd have about 1,000 volunteers, but since COVID, we haven't had that many.
It's not quite that many.
Not quite, 800?
Yeah, I think it's like 300 to 400 only.
That's what we had this past year.
Yeah, but it's increased for 2023.
Yeah.
Our calendar's getting full.
At one point,
So-
we had 2,000 after Katrina or more, right? And then I think it went down to 1,000 or just under 1,000, but our calendar is getting full. So if you want to bring a group here, which is fantastic, please do, because you get to work with these incredibly talented, lovely people, right? Who are growing in their ability to do this kind of stuff.
Well, and one of the staff members said this morning that the volunteers are the heart of these buildings.
Yeah, like our long-term volunteers, which means you're here for a month or more.
Yes.
And then our short-term volunteers, which are here for a week. We had a group here 2 weeks that, yeah, it's really the heartbeat of Back Bay Mission, because I know when you work with people living in poverty or people who are homeless or unsheltered, it can sometimes be exhausting and kind of thankless work to some extent, and you don't always see the kind of movement forward you want to see. Because there's still poverty and still homelessness, right, at the end of the day. And so when the volunteers come down with their happy faces and their willing volunteerism and their smiles and their questions, and their new insights, it's really encouraging to us. And for me personally, because I'm an ordained UCC pastor, I miss UCC people. I miss my peeps kind of from UCC church that I served in a couple locations, and when they come down, it just, for me, it's kind of a weird, warm, fuzzy, right? Because folks in the United Church of Christ really have a heart for equity and justice, and for me, that's really enriching to have them here. Any other thoughts? Why do you come down, Linda? What's your reason for coming down? Maybe the next to my question.
What's the reason
So
for
the
me
deeper
coming down?
hidden- Peel it away.
It's the feeling of acceptance, welcoming, the culture, the belief that God will take care of us when you're out there sleeping in the cold and all you have is a blanket. It humbles you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a strange experience for me, I guess, doing this work here. And I've done this kind of work before, but with homeless, runaway, throwaway youth, and we had a place to keep those youth. And working with Phoenix with homeless here, it's much, for some reason, it's much more tangible. It's kind of like when I lay my head on the pillow at night, I'm filled with a sense of gratitude and a sense of anxiety or pain for the people that don't have a bed and a pillow. Or some may not want it, but the most want it, but they can't afford it. They don't have employment. They don't have the money to do that. So that's kind of your...
Well, and I believe that this Back Bay Mission is the only facility that I know of in the United States that does all this.
Yeah, it's
We
unique.
could learn from, that's why people should come down
Yeah.
here and see it firsthand and see how it's run
Yeah.
and see how you treat your volunteers.
Well, and every day, all the staff are learning too. I mean, I'm learning every day something new. It's a part of life, right? You're never too old to learn. And when you get to a point where you stop learning, it's kind of a sad thing.
Yeah.
But so Ken, what's kind of your deeper kind of revelation for being here?
It's not quite as deep as Linda's. But when I first came down here, and our church came down in March, and I said, oh, cool, I can get out of Wisconsin in the middle of the winter. And then I got down here, it's like, well, this is pretty cool. The way we helped people, and when we went to the houses and got to meet the homeowners. It's like I went back with a totally different attitude than when I was coming down here. I mean, it was out of my comfort zone, to be totally honest. It's not something I had ever done before. Previous churches I knew we didn't do that.
Yeah.
So when I got to the UCC, it kind of opened my eyes to what else was there. So, but initially I came down, oh, it's warm here in March.
It's a benefit.
And it's the same, it's warm here in October.
Yeah.
It's starting to cool off back in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think, people ask why come all the way down here to Biloxi when there's homelessness and poverty in my own community, but
Yeah.
it gives you an opportunity to get away from your community and to be more engulfed, enfolded, or or just entrenched in the whole experience of poverty and homelessness, and it really helps you kind of think about your priorities and what's important to you, and when you go back home, you may see things differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think people experience too, from what they report.
One of the staff said to me, it's different when you come down here from a Saturday to Saturday, because you know your goal is down here to volunteer. When you get at home, your schedule gets in the midst of everything. And then that kind of gets pushed to the side, where here your focus is to volunteer.
Yeah. You know, one of the UCC themes has been immerse yourself, and I think it might have been our annual synod meeting, but it was immerse yourself, and that's the way I guess the word immerse is, you immerse yourself. Mm-hmm. And we want to really extend that more. We want to help people immerse into, like, this is kind of the cradle of the civil rights movement, so we have some plans to kind of include more of that in the volunteers' experience, but really to create whatever experience the volunteers want, right? Because I think that is important. And then it's kind of interesting, because if you're a longer term volunteer, you get to be here on the weekends, and maybe there isn't as much happening. You get to see Biloxi, you get to take advantage of things. I know you go to a lot of festivals, you went to the crazy
Tour?
coast thing.
Cruise the coast.
Yeah.
Cruising the coast thing.
There is always something going on down here.
I know, it's weird because it's a smaller community, but there's always something happening. You got to go to the graveyard cemetery tours, where they have actors that act out the part of the individuals that are dead in the cemetery. It's part of our history in Biloxi, so it's a really, you get to experience the richness of the culture and eat some really good seafood. Have you eaten seafood?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
We just had a shrimp boil last night.
Oh, I know, I missed it.
Yeah.
I was in Jackson. Yeah.
Actually, I missed it too, but I had the leftovers today.
Oh, did you? Okay, good. So again, we really value and appreciate what you bring to Back Bay, because it really lifts people's spirits, and then, you know, you're doing a lot of the work that probably falls between the cracks because staff are kind of stretched. You know, and I know this volunteer group that was here, and maybe you both helped with that, but I know they did a lot of work at the Micah Day Center. They put up curtains, they kind of straightened up the boardroom, they straightened up the storage closet, put up some shelves, which is all incredibly helpful, right? So those are some of the things you can do. If you can't really do a hammer, you can hang out at the Micah Day Center, help with showers, just talk to the people, help serve food with loaves and fishes.
In the food pantry.
In the food pantry,
You meet the
yeah.
clients one-on-one.
Yeah. So thank you much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we encourage you all to find maybe places and spaces in your own community, or come down to Biloxi to be of service. Because when you serve, I think personally, when you serve, you get more back for yourself sometimes than you ever really give to others. It's pretty amazing, right? It's that gratification, personal experience, and awareness. And not just that you feel good about yourself, but you know somebody else feels good. Because I talked to Michelle today, who's getting a new floor. She's just overjoyed. You know, and she said, can I keep a couple of these women here with me, and their husbands need to stay too? You know, her sense of gratitude was overwhelming to see the tears in her eyes. You know? So, and she has an autistic son, and her son is really charming too. So, thank you. And thank you everybody for watching this. If you have any questions, feel free to call, but always support Back Bay Mission with your prayers and with your resources. So thank you.